Hi, I'm Julia Hamm, President and CEO of the Smart Electric Power Alliance. And I'm excited to be here today with Brian Rich, who is Senior Vice President and Chief Customer Officer at Consumers Energy. This conversation is part of our series, Speaking with Utility Executives, about important technologies and resources that are part of their plans to get to a carbon-free energy future. Brian, thanks so much for joining me.
Great to be with you, Julia.
For context, why don't you quickly just share with the audience, what is Consumer Energy's target for carbon reduction?
At the highest level, Julia, we have a net zero carbon emissions target by 2040. So that's all generated and purchased energy. By 2040, we would be net zero. That includes 90% clean energy resources, zero coal, and reduce carbon emissions off 2005 levels by 90%.
Excellent, really fantastic target. And love the work that you're doing. And a really important part of the work you're doing at Consumers in terms of how you're going to get there relates to demand response and load flexibility. So share with me, how would you talk about the state of demand response and load flexibility today within Consumers?
You're right, Julia. We are super bullish on the potential for demand response and load flexibility. You know, like a lot of northern states, Michigan's system is driven by a summer residential air conditioning peak. So we have an extremely peaky system, and then during the shoulder months in the winter, it's effectively half of what we need during the summertime. As a result, we've got a lot of idle assets or assets that aren't used very frequently. So we think demand response is a key enabler. Today, just for sake of reference, our system is about 8,000 megawatt system peak, and we've got about 550 megawatts for the 2021 MISO year of demand response. But our clean energy plan gets us to 1,200 megawatts of demand response by 2040, which is really when we realize that net zero commitment. So 1,200 megawatts on an 8,000 megawatt system. I should also add, Julia, that we have 2% energy efficiency. So if you take our year sales of electric, we will achieve 2% of that year over year of energy efficiency. And that also, from a capacity reduction, is equivalent really to the 1,200 megawatts of demand response will deliver.
How is the pandemic factoring into your plans for demand response?
It's a great question. You know, we are, as I said, we're long on residential demand response because our system is really driven by residential customers using air conditioning. And we are building up our demand response in advance of our coal plants that are coal plant closures that are coming very soon. So you build up your virtual power plant first. I can assure you we certainly didn't count on all of our residential customers being home to the extent that they were this summer. And we had a hot summer here in Michigan. So we're learning how to operationalize demand response and what are the customer behaviors and at what point will they opt out. And I would say while it's clearly different based on the pandemic because our residential consumption has gone up and more customers are home, there's some incredible learnings that will prove valuable as we get down the road and we find that we might have to call more events when the plants actually close.
Great. Well, that statement actually is a perfect lead-in to my last question, which is, what one piece of advice would you give to other utilities about using demand response and load flexibility as they look to meet their carbon reduction targets?
You know, if you think about the capabilities that exist within a utility, it's a lot of engineering, permitting, construction, and energy supply. That's typically what's involved with steel in the ground. If you think about what's required to develop demand response, you can quickly move down that path and talk about all the engineering that's required to put demand response into your plan and your portfolio planning. But the truth of the matter is the capabilities that have to exist at a utility are very foreign to what we've historically done. You look like a retail company. You've got to have a brand that customers can trust. So you have to be a trusted advisor to be able to actually start controlling and optimizing their homes. You have to be able to have marketing and sales skills that are things that typically don't exist in utilities. So you start building up a lot of capabilities that you might historically see at retailers within a utility, and frankly, they're not in deep supply currently within the utility. So things like data analytics to understand which customers have highest propensity, program design, who to partner with. And I keep coming back to brand, really having a deep and profound brand trust with your customers that allow you to actually start scaling and optimizing the consumption in their home.
Wow, that is really great advice. And certainly, as this transition continues forward, it sounds like there's a lot of culture. That's one element of a big piece of cultural change that needs to happen. Well, Brian, thank you so much for your leadership, for taking the time to talk with us today about really thinking very intentionally about the role of customers in this transition that is going to be critically important. So thank you again, and keep up the great work.
Great to be with you, Julia. Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching. To see other episodes in this series, as well as other series we've recorded on SEPA TV, please visit our website at sepapower.org or subscribe to our YouTube channel.